you're practicing breathing, you're getting so many different benefits. So you're helping your heart out, you're helping your digestion out, you're helping your stress and anxiety, you're helping your autonomic nervous system, you're helping cognitive function and memory, and all of these things are compounding over time. You get a little bit better cardiovascular function, you might get a little bit deeper sleep, which is going to help your cardiovascular function, which is going to give you more energy. And it's there's really no way to quantify it, but it just keeps compounding over time, and you just basically never-ending growth. It's one of the only places with health and wellness that it seems like you can get infinite growth by just some basic principles practiced consistently.
Thanks for listening to One Question Wednesday. I started this podcast for the same reason I started Blue Magic Alchemy, to practice and share information on breathwork, meditation, and practicing and integrating self-development modalities. We live in this wonderful age where information is so readily available. So to me, it's not just about being able to share the practices, but how are we implementing them? How are we practicing them? How are we integrating the things that we're learning and experiencing when we practice into our daily lives? Welcome to episode 4 of One Question Wednesday. I'm your host, Jonathan Schechter. On this episode, I chat with Nick Heath, also known as the Breathing Diabetic on Instagram. Nick has an outstanding mission to share the information that he has learned about how breathwork can help people living with type 1 diabetes. And he is an outstanding researcher. His webpage and Instagram are just full with awesome scientific research on how breathwork can improve your health, especially if you have diabetes. And it's my pleasure to have him on One Question Wednesday. Hope you enjoy. So welcome to another episode of One Question Wednesday, the podcast where we only ask our guests one burning question. Today, our guest is Nick Heath, also known as the Breathing Diabetic. He is an Oxygen Advantage instructor, researcher, and writer, and I came across his content on Instagram. Really fascinating stuff, the work that he's doing around how breathwork can help people with diabetes, and also just really great content. And I was really excited to have him on the show. So Nick, welcome.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jonathan. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. So actually, when I found your content, you have a bunch of these posts where they're like these one-line ideas or quotes about breathwork, different ideas and little bite-sized nuggets. And that was where I think I found the first time that I discovered you and was like, oh, this is really cool. And like there was one I know that really stuck out to me that said like the point of having a breathwork practice is not to have a practice, which I really appreciated. And then the other one was like, you can't breathe your way out of a Big Mac, which I thought was just fantastic.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. So just great job with the content that you're doing. And really, really love it. So my question for today's show is, out of these quotes and ideas that you've posted, which one is your favorite? And can you kind of expand on it a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah. So I will quickly say the one sentence idea came from a guy named Josh Spector. So he does a lot of one sentence ideas about marketing and all of these different things. And I thought, I got to do this for breathing. So I'm not that creative. I borrowed it from someone else, but applied some things I've learned from breathing into it. But yeah, my favorite one. So the two you mentioned are actually two of my top, but my favorite one is breathing is the compound interest of health and wellness. And I love that because there's just, you can break that down into so many different ways, but in my opinion, the benefits of breathing compound over time. So the more you do it, the more benefits you see. It's kind of like, watching your 401k grow over time, or whatever an analogy you want to make with the stock market or whatever. But essentially, when you're practicing breathing, you're getting so many different benefits. So you're helping your heart out, you're helping your digestion out, you're helping your stress and anxiety, you're helping your autonomic nervous system, you're helping cognitive function and memory, and all of these things are compounding over time. You get a little bit better cardiovascular function, you might get a little bit deeper sleep, which is going to help your cardiovascular function, which is going to give you more energy. And it's there's really no way to quantify it, but it just keeps compounding over time, and you just basically never ending growth. It's one of the only places with health and wellness that it seems like you can get infinite growth by just some basic principles practiced consistently. And so I rambled a little bit there, but that's the main that's my favorite one, and I try to bring back that all the time, that it's about consistency, and little 1% gains every day compounded can grow into something really big.
Yeah, thank you for that. I really resonate with that as well. And that's something that I try to work with my clients on as well, is, that you can, I always talk about it in relation to exercise, right? Like if you go to the gym one day, it doesn't matter how hard you work out, you're really not going to get the benefits that you want in the long term out of that one session. And the great thing about breathing is, especially in relation to regulating your nervous system, and in relation to somatic work and people that are working with trauma, is that if you practice certain breathing, on a regular basis, it becomes a resource. It's not just like, hey, you can breathe into this paper bag and, calm yourself down. It's, oh, as I notice these things coming up in my nervous system, I can use these resources, and my body knows how to react, knows like, oh, it's time to calm down now, So consistency, like you said, is the king.
That's right. And yeah, you nailed it, because that's what you're learning with consistency, is to notice these little cues in your body telling you, oh, maybe I need to do some sort of reset, or maybe something's off, even though I feel okay. I'm noticing a little anxiety. And it's weird, because breathing is so automatic and all of that, but since it's always there, there's always something you can tune into in your breath. And it makes sense that all these ancient cultures have done it, because it really does tell you your physiological state. So you might notice, hey, I'm breathing a little heavier, and then you realize, oh, it's because I have a presentation later and I'm getting a little anxious, even though I didn't notice it yet. I'm feeling it here.
Right.
And so, like with you mentioned different things like, oh, just do it once, or with a paper bag, and I think of that a lot with diets and exercise. A lot of people start new diets, here or there, or start a workout program and then they quit. And that's why I think breathing is, I call it the compound interest of health and wellness, because we're always breathing. Everyone breathes. So it doesn't matter which workout you do, which diet you use, we're all going to be breathing. And that gives all of us an opportunity to be compounding with every breath we take, with simple things just like switching to nasal breathing, most of your life. That's something that will just compound over time. And so having the breath there nonstop, 24/7, 365, gives you this unbelievable opportunity to compound.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you brought in the awareness part of it as well. It's almost like in the beginning, we have to practice awareness, but in the sort of in the middle and as you progress, it almost becomes like the side effect of like, well, my overall awareness is so much more in tune because I've been practicing and because I've been doing these breathing exercises over a long period of time. Now I'm more keyed into more subtle things that are happening in my body and with my breath. And I can definitely relate to that, in terms of like, I remember like the first time that I noticed that I was stressed out and I had this urge to breathe through my mouth. And just that became like this cue of, oh, what else is happening? Like maybe I need to stop and pay attention to it. And just that urge of, why do I feel like breathing through my mouth right now? was the cue for me to like stop and slow down and make sure that, I wasn't breathing shallow, because all of a sudden it was like, oh, I didn't even notice that I was breathing shallow. I just noticed that I wanted to breathe through my mouth.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, time to slow it down, take some nice, deep breaths through my nose, and, just key into the rest of what my body is trying to tell me.
Yeah. And that gets back to your opening statement of the goal of a breathwork practice is to not need a breathwork practice, right? And it's a little different than how I meant it, but you kind of just illustrated that of like tuning in. You already were, because of your breathing, you were able to immediately tune into these feelings rather than using some sort of breathwork practice to get you those feelings. So a lot of people engage in breathwork to like feel some sort of, whatever emotional release, or they want to feel relaxed, but you can then, if you've been doing it long enough, you start to just notice these little subtle cues in your body and things like that. And so that's kind of one of the ways of looking at the goal of it is to not need it anymore, because you're always kind of tuned in. Now, no one's going to get there. That's like, I'm not saying I'm there or anything, but that's kind of one of the goals, is to not need to rely on it because you've done it so much. It's instinctual for you to just immediately slow down your breath or to speed it up, or whatever you need to do just becomes automatic.
Yeah. And I think to maybe bring the circle full, with your analogy of the compound interest, it's like you've gone from being rich to being wealthy. That interest is like working for you so much behind the scenes that you don't have to manage it actively. You don't have to pay attention to it. It's just there for you, whether you need it or not. It's just working.
Perfect. Yeah, that was beautifully said. Yeah, it's your passive income at that point, right? You're just reaping all the benefits, and because you've worked hard and trained your body to breathe correctly. So that's perfectly said.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, where can people check you out if they want to learn more about you or work with you?
Yeah, so I have my Instagram account at the Breathing Diabetic. That's where I try to post fun stuff, maybe once or twice a week. The best place though is the website, thebreathingdiabetic.com. I have a newsletter, the Breathing 411. I send out every Monday, and that's kind of my favorite thing on the planet to do. I get to just look at breathing from a lot of different perspectives. It's called 411. It's 4 thoughts, 1 quote, and 1 answer, all related to breathing. So if you're interested, it's free and it's fun. I don't really do any, I'm open to doing one-on-one training and stuff, but I really just put all this information out there. We didn't talk about my background or anything, but yeah, I just want to help people with diabetes, and everybody really just breathe better. So it's all free. It's all out there. So please sign up and check out the website. There's lots of resources there too.
Yeah, I did some checking out of your website when I was, getting prepared for this episode. And you really do have a lot of really cool resources on there and scientific research. And I definitely appreciate the time that you've put into that. There's so many people in the breathwork space now, especially as it's getting more popular, where it's like definitely more on the woo side. And it's great to see so much science and, research behind it.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on One Question Wednesday, and hope we could do it again sometime. This was awesome.
Yeah. Yep. Sounds great. Thanks
All
a lot.
right. Yeah. Thanks, Nick. All right. Cheers.